Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of Inside the GIAA here, presented by the Beck Center. It's Thrift, Barringer. It's Brett Taylor. As always, we are excited about a fantastic show, playoff baseball and soccer. It is going to dominate today's show. We're just going to give you updates from the brackets. It's going to be shorter than last week's. We won't have any guests, but it's still going to be a very fun show. And then we'll have our ultimate special leading into Statesboro and Macon for soccer and baseball that week. We look forward to talking to all the coaches that will be involved on the state championship run. Brad Taylor, how you been, man?
I'm good, man. Excited to talk about some of the things that have happened on the field, some of the results that we've seen, maybe some surprises that we didn't expect that have come about in some of the playoff games. So I can't wait to get into it, and it's going to be a good show, man.
It is going to be excellent, man. So don't forget, follow us on Instagram, GIAA, Facebook, same thing, Georgia Independent Athletic Association. Go and follow us. That's where you get all the news and notes, up-to-date information. Savoy does a really good job making sure that we get information out there and shine a light on all the student athletes. So looking forward to seeing what's coming up next on those social media pages. And then GIAA sports.org, that's the website. That's where everything's at. That's where we go to get the brackets updated, the rankings, stats, past champions. Make sure to go there. And if you want to rewatch any of those old state championships, you're getting that, that championship fever. You want to watch last year's at Sonova Spark in Columbus, go to GIAA.tv, $5.99. That's $5.99 to be able to watch any of the broadcasts on GIAA.tv in the vault. Brett, it's one of the best subscriptions we got, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can see everything going back to, I think, 2016. So when we first started doing anything with GISA and GIAA, so many good games in there, some great series, baseball series that you can go back and see, some overtime, penalty kick, soccer championship games from years past. So go check that out. And again, GIAA Vault, there's nothing like it, Thrift.
Nope. And it is quarterfinal week or second round of baseball, if you want to call it that way, quarterfinals for soccer. Look for both this week. So we'll talk about those first round matchups that happened last week. Remember, the top 4 seeds in both soccer and baseball got a bye. So we'll talk about that. Me and Brett will dissect the baseball segment coming up after this break. And then later on, Richard and Coach Ian Jones, the Stratford head coach, break down the soccer brackets as several games have been already underway that happened last night. Same thing with baseball. We had several games last night, some today. So we know we are already kind of behind the 8 ball, as it was scheduled to be Friday, Saturday, but this is graduation week. So we want to say congratulations to all the GIAA schools and all the GISA schools out there and all the seniors that are graduating. I remember when I was a senior, Brett, back in 2011, not knowing what I was about to get into and taking that step into the real world was a scary feeling. But if you have good morals, you have confidence, and you kind of have a plan in place of what you want to do, I feel like you can attack anything. So we want to say congratulations to all those that are graduating this week or next week, because we know that it's coming up soon. Looking forward to seeing the pictures and posting all the graduation guys and girls.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned it. It kind of threw the schedules accelerated this week. So we do have some results here, even though we're kind of on our bracket in that second round matchup for baseball and for soccer. But having to move things around, that's understandable. Honestly, I like the way that GIAA has done it, where you've got towards the end of the month, you've got the actual championships where you're a little bit outside of that graduation window, so you don't have those to contend with anymore. But you do have to kind of contend with them now here in the earlier rounds. So we'll see what early results we've got. Again, as I said, we've got some surprises that have occurred, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And I can't wait to get into the show, Thrift.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back from break, me and Brett will break down all the baseball brackets here on GIAA.tv.
GIAA.tv is your official home for live coverage of GIAA state championships throughout the year. Whether you are at home or on the go, you can stream the action live on your favorite device. Don't miss a second of the action from across the state, all on one platform. GIAA.tv, your home for GIAA championships.
Welcome back, everyone, to Inside the GIAA, GIAA.tv. Brett Taylor, Thrift, Barringer, and here we go. Let's look at those baseball matchups that happened. FPCA took down Covenant, so they'll take on Citizens Christian. We had Robert Toombs take down Crisp Academy. So good win by Robert Toombs, and they'll take on Thomas Jefferson. David Emmanuel will be hosting John Hancock. Upset. And I'm going to be honest, Flint River was one of my teams, Brett, that I thought could be a sleeper pick, those 5 and below ranked teams. And, man, John Hancock takes them down. Heritage Preps also beats Fullington, so they'll take on Vidalia Heritage. What's your thoughts on those first-round matchups, man?
Yeah, everything chalk except that Flint River, John Hancock. And Flint River handled John Hancock in game 1, which is kind of surprising as to the result of 2 and 3. I don't know if maybe some complacency crept in game 2. And then once you get to a game 3, it's kind of a free-for-all. It's up for grabs, and the Wildcats go down at home to John Hancock. So the John Hancock will take on David Emmanuel, who I have always thought was a very dangerous team to take, potentially be a threat to Citizens Christian. But I think all roads are leading through Douglas and Citizens Christian. They're just going to be a tough out for anybody. Pitching and the hitting, they're going to be, hard to dethrone the Patriots here in the single A.
Yeah, as long as they got Blake Bryant, and he's the number 1 pitcher in the entire GIAA, they should be the favorite. But it should be a lot of fun. That Thomas Jefferson-Robert Toombs matchup I'm really interested in. And, hey, John Hancock took down Flint River. Why can't they maybe upset David Emmanuel? It's about who's the hottest, not maybe who's the best in these baseball matchups. From what I can tell, because we like trying to get score updates, no games have been played yet in terms of, well, I stand corrected there. There have not been any games that have been played as far as the 1A classification, okay? But there are games that have been played for some others already yesterday. We'll talk about those here in just a moment. Let's continue on, Brett. Let's go to 2A classification. All right, 2A classification, and we got Southwest Georgia number 1. Westminster took down Windsor. No surprise really there from Westminster taking down Windsor. How about Edmund Burke taking down Sherwood Christian? They'll take on Heritage School. Brentwood took care of business against Briarwood. They got Gatewood coming up. And then Southland beat Georgia Christian. They'll take on Trinity Christian. Thoughts on the 2A classification, Rick? Brett?
It's just Southland. Yeah, I know you're so used to Big Rich. I totally get it, but Southland, they utterly dominated Georgia Christian. It wasn't even close over in America. So Southland seems like they may be getting hot at the right time. As we mentioned, Gatewood, we think is kind of in that catbird seat, if you will. They're the 2 seed. They're the 3-time defending state champs. They're just going to be really tough for Brentwood to move any further, I think. Edmund Burke and Heritage, that may be the series of the quarterfinals here. We've kind of already circled that even before the brackets kind of got going last weekend. So we thought that we would see Edmund Burke and Heritage play against each other, and that's gonna be an outstanding series. And I think Westminster, they get the victory over Windsor. Not sure if they can get past the Warriors of Southwest Georgia. I'm thinking, other than that 3-6 matchup with Trinity and Southland, I think everything else probably remains chalk. That 3-6 matchup is going to be tough, and if we see an upset, it's going to come from that 3-6 or that 4-5, I think.
All right, let's go from 2A to 3A. Westfield's win in the first round was short-lived. They're done.
Yes.
Bellwood took care of business against them in unbelievable fashion. 5-1 and then 10-9 in that game too. Westfield is gone. But good win over Brookwood to even make it to the quarterfinals as they go down. Valwood now to the semis, and we've been talking about them all year. They look like the team that's potentially could win a championship and the favorite in 3A. They are now 24-3 on the season, and Coach Robert Shipman has done a fantastic job with them. They're led by Maddox Coley and DeJuan Powell. And those two studs are batting over 400 this year for Valwood. Piedmont had no problem against Dominion Christian. They got Pinewood coming up this weekend. That may be the series of 3A, man. That's the one I have circled, Brett, and looking forward to potentially seeing. From there, we go to the Deerfield Windsor. They'll host Tift area. They took down St. Andrews. And then how about John Millage taking on Frederica? I really think all three of those could be up in the air. Brett, what's your thoughts on 3A classification?
Yeah, I think Piedmont, I said it from before the bracket was released that Piedmont plays great baseball up in Monticello. They have a history and tradition there of deep runs in the playoffs and lots of championships. So, and they've beaten some good quality teams this year. They've beaten Stratford. They played in a really tough region. So I think Piedmont Pinewood series I think that goes 3 games. I think Frederica JMA goes 3 games. John Millage, I think, is rounding into form a little bit. Again, they play in a tough region, the same one with Piedmont and some of the Macon 4A schools. So you've got 2 teams there that are really battle tested. Valwood, as you mentioned, moves on as Westfield just didn't quite have enough. They it seems like they used up a lot of the runs and bats that they had in their series over Brookwood. They scored a lot of runs in that opening series, but Valwood was able to stifle the Hornet offense enough, so Valwood moves to the semis. And then you've got Deerfield, Windsor, Tift area. I expect the Knights to move on there. So again, that 4-5 and 6-3 matchup, pay close attention as we get into this weekend and see how those things play out, and whether I'm expecting and predicting that we'll have 2 series go 3 games there.
Brett, looking at the rankings right now, Piedmont's ranked number 2. Now, I know they're the 4 seed, but right now, Max Prep's got them number 2. They got John Millage number 3, and then they got Deerfield Windsor 4. Again, I know some games were played last week, and they put it on their schedule. The standings that already came out. But I'm telling you, do not sleep on Piedmont. The Cougars are a really good baseball team. We've seen them be successful, and Pinewood's not going to be an easy out either. I really do think that's going to be the series that I'm looking forward to. Piedmont led by head coach Casey Moody. They, again, will be taking on Pinewood. That's this Friday. They come in on the season 16-9 on the year. They did get swept by John Millage and Stratford. They were off to they didn't have a great regular season towards the end, but then able to sweep Tatnall. They just took games from Dominion, and now they got Pinewood on slate. That should be a lot of fun. Brett, let's go to 4A classification. So Strong Rock dismantled George Walton, and I feel like they're one of the most underrated teams we had and they're so well coached. They come in, and then guess what? Last night, they lose 11-0 in game 1 of the quarterfinal, because remember, so those games got moved up. One of them was FPD Strong Rock. Well, FPD dominated game 1. Game 2, Strong Rock won 8-5, and game 3 will be this Friday. That at 4:30, Brett. I know you'll be there, Middle Georgia Sports Live. That's going to be an incredible game, man. And I'm telling you, don't take the 8 seed out. Take that out. Strong Rock, now game 3, anything's up for grabs. Could we see a massive upset in the quarterfinals? Athens Christian's going to host Tatnall. Tatnall had no problem with Tallulah Falls. They'll be taking on Athens Christian on the road this week. That should be a lot of fun. The one I got circled, and I know it's near where I stay, but it's a rivalry too, Brookstone Calvary. They played 3 times this year. All 3 games went down to the final out. Brookstone won 2 out of the 3. Calvary playing some of the best baseball out of anyone. They've won 9 of their last 10. Game 1 today happened today. Should be a lot of fun. And then guess what? Game 2 on Friday, game 3 on Saturday. So Brookstone and Calvary should be a fun one. Calvary took down Bullock in a best of 3 and won that game 3 4-2. Bethlehem Christian, Loganville, Bethlehem Christian moves on once again, and they'll be taking on Berryville and Stratford. 4A classification, Brett.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. FPD Strong Rock. I think that is the surprise that we mentioned in the opening. To see the Patriots come back after really getting obliterated in game one, 11-0, and then they come back and they win that second game. They force a game three, and as you mentioned, anything can happen in that game three. I still would have to lean heavily towards FPD's favor. But if the Patriots can get out to a strong start in that game, take a lead, start putting pressure on FPD and forcing them to press a little bit, I think that's the recipe for the Strong Rock Patriots to upset FPD in another game. This is the first loss for FPD. Well, they're only their second loss on the season, their first loss since February. So how will FPD respond? They will have, today as a day, a rest day or a practice day because of all the changes in schedule with graduation and whatnot. So they will actually have a kind of a day and a half to sleep on it, if you will. And then that's just going to be, how do you come out if you're FPD? Strong Rock's got to have all the confidence in the world, honestly. They're playing with house money at this point. As far as expectation, I think that Athens Christian Tatnall matchup right there. Tatnall has to go on the road. They're a dangerous team. They played really good against Tallulah Falls. Tallulah did push them a little bit in the second game, but Tatnall was able to finish that off. So hopefully they're getting on a good roll there and making Athens Christian going to have to, to get some momentum and kind of create their own momentum, considering they had a bye last week. And then the Brookstone Calvary matchup, as you mentioned, very close contest throughout the regular season. This is a region matchup, and it's an all Columbus matchup. So these teams know each other so well. There's not a whole lot of secrets. You expect it to go down the wire. It could be a 3-gamer as well. The 2-time defending state champs trying to get themselves back to a state championship series later on in the month of May. We'll see if it happens, but they got to get past a very game Calvary Knights. And then Stratford and Bethlehem Christian. I expect Stratford to probably pull this out. It'll be at home. They play very well, inside the confines there at Stratford Academy. They got the blue wall there in the outfield, the big blue monster in right field. They tend to play very well at home. So I would expect to see the Eagles move on. And it's just going to be all eyes on Macon and FPD, I think, tomorrow night to see what happens there with the 1 seed, because not many expected to see FPD lose before they got to a state championship series.
Unbelievable. And we'll find out. Westfield not able to do that against Valwood. They got beat and taken down. They're gone. But Strong Rock, can they pull off the upset? We're going to find out. Well, that's all the brackets, and we'll come back full screen here. Brett, well, as Brett's fixing that, there we go. We were going to get back up and rolling. Technology, baby. Been a lot of fun. Guess what? Go and watch all these games. It's $15. It's universal price to get in. It's worth the price of admission. Support these student athletes, and it should be a lot of fun. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back from break, Ian Jones and Richard Holdridge are going to break down the soccer brackets here on Inside the GIAA, presented by the Beck Center on GIAA.tv. Don't go anywhere. Right there.
GIAA.tv now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.tv Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.tv Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.tv Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.tv Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.tv Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more. Featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.tv.
And welcome back to Inside the GIAA, and it is playoff time for soccer. I hate that. Hang on, let me restart. All right, 3, 2, 1. And we're back here inside the GIAA. As always, we have got the soccer correspondent. He is the head soccer coach for Stratford Academy, and he joins us every week talking about the brackets here in the GIAA soccer. Coach Ian Jones, how you doing, Coach?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to fight off a cold right now, but that's okay. But yeah, doing all right.
First of all, I do want to say congratulations on a fantastic season. I know it was a tough loss last night, but now you can focus on the off season and also Stratford Academy. The girls still, they're alive. They are the number 1 overall seed. They're taking on Mount DeSales. So far, have you been able to pay attention to the brackets and how they've shapen out?
Obviously, tough loss last night, and hats off to Brookstone. I mean, they're very, very solid side, and very, very well coached. So Coach Alton's done a really good job, and obviously the brackets. I know we got some games today. Cristo Rey is taking on Mount DeSales at at Mount DeSales. And then, outside those other games, I'm still going to check out the rest of those brackets to see what they look like.
Absolutely. And we will go ahead and take a look at the brackets. We're going to go ahead and start with the 2A girls classification and the defending champion Central Fellowship. They are taking on Gatewood, St. George's, and Georgia Christian. Westminster taking on Sherwood Christian. Trinity Christian is taking on the Heritage School. Coach, talk about what you think about this 2A bracket for the girls and who could end up being in at Stratford in a couple of weeks.
Well, on paper, when you look at it, number 1 and number 2 look like they're on course to meet one another. But I think St. George's and Georgia Christian obviously will have a say so in that. I think Central Fellowship probably won't have much of a trouble with Gatewood. And then, but Trinity Christian, I think, might be a dark horse as well. So I'd be wary of Trinity Christian out of Dublin. Westminster needs to make sure they're ready to go against them.
Yeah, Central Fellowship would love nothing more than to make it back to Macon to try to win yet another soccer championship. All right, Coach, let's move on to the 2A boys bracket, where the defending champions, Holy Spirit Prep, is the 3 seed, as they will be taking on Central Fellowship. If they do get past Central Fellowship, they will could possibly be on the road taking on the 2 seed. But you got Heritage out of Noonan. They are the number 1 overall seed. They've had a fantastic regular season. Can Holy Spirit Prep get over the hump, try to get possibly a road victory in the semifinals? Could you see a scenario where they could end up back in Macon?
I certainly think so. I mean, Sam Walker's done a great job with Holy Spirit over the years, and he's graduated a lot in the last few years, and so I think they had a tough start to the season, but I think they've kind of righted the ship a little bit, and certainly that's why where their seeding is ended put them in that place. But you give credit where it's due. Augusta Prep has had a tremendous season, rebounding from last year, and then obviously when you got Heritage. I mean, Heritage has just been dominant across the board. I mean, I think they've only got the 1 loss on the year against Westminster out of Augusta. And so certainly I think the state championship, I think on paper would be going through Heritage, but certainly I know Augusta Prep and Holy Spirit will have certainly some words to say on that.
Yeah, one thing about Heritage, I know that they are the overall number 1 seed, but if they go in a situation where they end up facing Holy Spirit Prep, I always have a cliche in sports. You can never underestimate the heart of a champion. I know that it's not about what you did last year. It's about what you did this year. But you can never count out the defending champions. But on paper, Heritage, a 14-1-1 record, they look like they're the favorites to win the 2A championship. But you look at what they did last year, and I'm like, I'm going through here saying, I mean, this could be a rematch, but they want to try to get over that 6-0 loss that they suffered to Holy Spirit Prep last year. I think that that game resonated with them, and they're just trying to regroup, and they've had such a bounce back year this year.
They really have. When we played, like I said, we've played them early in the season, and they were. Let's just say, I mean, we underestimated them, and they were a very, very strong side, and a side that I didn't anticipate them to be as physical as they were, all over the field. I mean, they beat us up and down the field, and certainly, and then they've got a great forward who's scoring all their goals for them. So I think Holy Spirit, it will absolutely be a different game with Holy Spirit this year. Holy Spirit last year, I mean, that was just a phenomenal team that was in playing in that state final. For argument's sake, I'd say maybe the second or the third best team in all the classifications. I still think Westminster, schools out of Augusta, was the overall best team in the class in the GIAA, and then obviously then you got Pacelli and then Holy Spirit, coming in a close second.
All right, Coach, let's move on to 3A girls, and we got the defending champions, Frederica, the number 1 seed. This is actually the first round, so the quarters are the first round because of the different types of teams in the 3A. Not a whole lot of teams, so they just have 8 teams make the playoffs. We've got a pretty interesting first round matchup between Terrell Academy and Lakeview. I always enjoy those 4 or 5 matchups. Brookwood taking on Deerfield Windsor. That's the 2-7 matchup, and then the 3-6 we got Westminster Schools of Augusta and John Millage. Coach, what do you think about Frederica possibly making it back to the state championship?
I mean, I've said it time and time again. I think Frederica are the team to beat. They've just got historically just got such a great girls program, and I think it's going to be very, very difficult, for teams to match up with them. But again, you certainly don't want to tell Brookwood or Westminster that hey, you don't have a chance, because certainly I think that any team can be beaten on any given day if they're not prepared, and I'm sure the coaching staff of Frederica will make sure that they're prepared. But certainly I do think it does. The road does go through Frederica.
Absolutely, and I could see a scenario, especially. By the way, I do have the updated brackets. These brackets are not updated. Terrell actually did beat Lakeview, so Terrell moves on. Frederica is going to be taking on St. Andrews, and so these are not completely updated brackets, Coach. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah.
And by the way, this Frederica St. Andrews matchup is the rematch of the state championship last year. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, let's go to 3A boys. Not a whole lot of teams. In fact, we only have 7 teams that made the playoffs. Dominican actually didn't have enough games to actually be considered a playoff team. So what they did was they gave Westminster the bye, and then we've got Valwood taking on Frederica. We got Brookwood taking on Lakeview, and then St. Andrews taking on Deerfield Windsor. Not a whole lot of soccer teams in 3A boys classification, but with less teams, anything could happen. Coach, do you see a scenario where you could end up seeing Westminster Schools of Augusta coming out on top, or is there a team that you like that could surprise some people?
Brookwood and St. Andrews are really the only 2 that I think that can probably give Westminster any trouble. Westminster, I believe it was a 1-0 game over St. Andrews early in the year. But I think, Coach Sean Brower will have his boys ready. And I think, assuming they are, ready to go on game days, which, very, very, very well coached team. Him and his coaching staff do a great job. And I say this, for argument's sake, they are that's a powerhouse organization now. I still think that out of all the teams we've played this year, that's still the best team that we've played over the course of the last 2 seasons.
All right, Coach. Let's go to 4A. We're going to start with the girls, as we've got the first round matchups in the books. Stratford going to be taking on Mount DeSales. We've got the 4-seed Pacelli taking on George Walton. That's actually going to be next week because Pacelli has graduation on Friday, and they are the defending GIAA champions, by the way. I was at FPD Strong Rock, and I tell you, Bowen Matthews, 5 goals. FPD was able to win that game 6-1. They will host a semifinal. They will await the winner of the Kings Academy and Brookstone. Brookstone was the runners-up last year. I think that's still going to be a tough matchup going up to Woodstock, Georgia. But I think that the Kings Academy is kind of the new kid on the block. It's only their second year in the GIAA. I'm wondering if the Kings Academy knows how to win in big-time situations. Brookstone has been there before, but that's an interesting 3-6 matchup. What do you think about the 4A girls classification? And could we see an all-Macon final at Stratford Academy in a couple weeks between Stratford and
I
FPD?
mean, so there's a lot of potential there, but certainly, I know, Coach Kate is not going to overlook Mountain Sales. They take on Mountain Sales today, and certainly, if they are able to do what they should do against Mountain Sales, then so be it. But Pacelli's going to be a tough draw for them in the semifinals, and I know that if they were to match up, I think Pacelli is really not truly a 4 seed. They're probably really a 2nd or 3rd seed. When you look at, we've talked about strength of schedule and who they've played. So they've got a lot more losses on their schedule that really it doesn't really truly reflect how good of a team they really are. And in FPD, they've really overcome some injuries from early in the year. And Bone Matthews, I mean, she is a special player, certainly someone that I would say a generational player that has come through, and she's committed to Auburn already for next year, and so certainly I know her last hurrah is she wants to get back to that state final, and then Kings Academy and Brookstone. Brookstone's been there before. Brookstone's been there as a 6 seed 2 years ago, if I recall correctly, and end up being state champions. So certainly. This is probably the most competitive bracket on the girls' side across all classifications. So certainly, this should be some good, entertaining soccer.
Hey, Coach, I do want to say something about the Kings Academy because they do have an impressive record, 13-5, but they haven't played any of the schools in Columbus, any of the schools in Macon. So I just don't know if the talent they're playing is up to par with the likes of Stratford, FPD, Pacelli, and Brookstone. I'm wondering if were they kind of generously ranked number 3 because of their record, but it's interesting to see. I still think that the Kings Academy has had a fantastic season. I'm not going to take anything away from what they have done, but this is a tough 3-6 matchup. Wouldn't you agree, Coach?
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of it. Yeah, when we look at these max pep rankings, and they've got the algorithm of wins and losses and strength of schedule. I mean, there's really no true indicator that really if you go out and win games, you're going to get ranked high. The strength of schedule obviously does play a part into that for sure. But and geographically speaking, sometimes it's not easy for schools to schedule. For budgetary reasons to travel to Columbus and or come to Macon. So those Atlanta, if you got schools in Atlanta, a lot of them will stay up there. Tallulah Falls is another great example on the boys' side. They've got a great record, but they've not had the same opportunities to maybe travel to the likes of Columbus and Macon to play. And so and a lot of times that's just that's out of their control. And you can only play who you can play, and but certainly as you start building your program, you want to try and see if you can maybe make a trip down on a Friday and a Saturday, maybe get a couple games in, just so you can get tested a little bit.
All right, Coach, and finally 4A boys, as we. Obviously, Brookstone ends up advancing, did defeat Stratford last night. I mean, it was a very competitive game. I watched it on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. You guys did score that goal, but Brookstone is just so talented with EJ Siraj. And I think that has been the surprise team of the GIAA. Only won 4 games last year. Mm-hmm. We could end up having an all-Columbus championship in Macon. but you cannot count out Mount DeSales. They were one of the top teams in soccer, and they'll be taking on Cristo Rey. In fact, you can catch that game this Friday on Middle Georgia Sports Live. Calvary taking on Tallua Falls. That's going to be a pretty interesting matchup, but you got the defending 4A champions, Pacelli, taking on Fulton Science, and I believe that game is going to be next week because Pacelli has graduation on Friday. What's your takeaway on 4A boys? Can Pacelli go back-to-back, or is there a team that could give them some trouble?
Well, I certainly I haven't seen Pacelli play other than technically speaking, I guess I did watch the game last week between Pacelli and Brookstone, but I also know Pacelli had played the night before against Calvary Christian, so that wasn't really a true reflection of how good of a team that they were fielding after going to overtime against Calvary. But I mean, what I saw yesterday out of Brookstone, EJ was, I mean, we scored a goal, and I really felt, that our game plan was going into play, and next thing you know, man, that boy comes down, and I mean, he scores a ringer. I mean, an absolute ringer. It was probably within a minute or two after we scored, and that took the wind out of our sails. And then probably 5 minutes later, he a quick turn in the box and fires, hits the post, hits our goalkeeper in the head, and goes in the goal. And I mean, it's just like, wow, it's shell shock. And he's a very, very special talent. Number 11, I do not know the player's name, but I do have to tip my hats off to him. After the game, he was consoling one of our goalkeeper, and that's what good sportsmanship's all about. And the game last night, though it got heated, from a competitive standpoint, it was really good to see some great sportsmanship being displayed by Brookstone and some of their players. That was awesome. And then I think Mountain Sales, they've kind of, their strength of schedule kind of hurt them in the tail end of the season, dropping from a first seed all the way down to third over the last couple of weeks. But that's not really a true reflection of how good of a team they are. They've really got a solid team, down the middle of the park. They're very, very strong. Alex Roseberg, number 5, coming out of the back, is going to be very, very difficult for teams to deal with. And then, obviously they got number 10 and number 9 for them that, dynamic, very dynamic players that I think can cause a lot of problems. So I think it's going to be a very competitive state semifinals. Once we get there, I think Calvary Christian and Tallua Falls, that's a game. I'll be honest. Yeah, Tallua Falls had a nail biter with Tatnall. I mean, I think it was 4-3 was the final score. They were up, I think 3-1. So I think they kind of fell asleep. But I still think that all roads go through Pacelli right now. But I think it could be a Pacelli, Brookstone, or Mountain Sales, final. But I'm sure Calvary Christian is going to have something to say about that as well.
All right, Coach. Final thing I want to talk about. Obviously, in 2 weeks, your school's getting ready to host all classifications in the soccer championships. And we have the official times. Tuesday, May the 26th, starting with the 2A Girls Championship at 2:30. We got the 3A Girls Championship at 5:30, and the 4A Girls Championship is going to take place at 7:30. So we've got 2.5 hours between games. Logistically, you want everything to run smooth. You actually have that additional soccer field behind the soccer field where they can practice and have warm-ups. So we don't have to worry about if the game ends right at 5, we don't have to worry about giving them another 30 minutes so they can warm up. You can just go right into that game. Logistically, and same with the boys on Wednesday, by the way, the 2A, 3A, and 4A boys at the same times as the girls on Tuesday. Logistically, are you guys prepared in case there's a 2A game that could end up going to 2 extra times and could go into penalty kicks?
Yeah, I mean, we are. And I mean, I think it was 2 years ago, we had a lightning delay for 2 hours on the first night. And so, I mean, one reason why the GIAA has asked us to continue to host is when you've got you've got the turf field down below, teams can warm up, and and they can really kind of plan accordingly as the other game is going on. So then that way, they'll be when the game is over, we've got plenty of time for teams to step down to the turf field, to do that, to get with their fans, with their families, to celebrate. Whilst and then the next game can go ahead and get the guys up there and start warming up, and they'll have their 20 minutes on the field and get situated. And and it's very unique in our facility to have two fields right next to one another at a high school. And that's why things run so smoothly. And of course, we couldn't do it without all our volunteers. We've got some great parents. Our Booster Club jumps in. Our Board of Trustees jumps in. And, whether it's through our hospitality tent, through our concessions, we'll have golf carts, helping provide some transportation from the, around campus, for those that might need it. And then, but we're excited about hosting, and we feel like we are the best, at hosting this type of event, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it, and we'll have it for you on GIAA.tv. Can't wait to see everybody over there, including Clint Morgan, Kent Copeland, Stan Whitlock, all the staff from GIAA as they roll out that banner and they award champions to 6 teams, 3 on the boys, 3 on the girls. It's going to be a fun time at Stratford Academy. Thanks again, Coach. We'll see you next week. We'll break down preview the semifinals, recap them, and then by the time next week, we will know who will be playing in the championships at Stratford Academy. Thanks again, Coach, for being here on Inside the GIAA.
Thanks, man. Again, appreciate all you guys do and covering soccer and help spread the word.
All right, that is our soccer correspondent for Inside the GIAA, Coach Ian Jones of Stratford Academy. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, Thrift and Brett are going to wrap this thing up as you're watching Inside the GIAA.
GIAA.tv now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.tv Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.tv Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.tv Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.tv Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.tv Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more. Featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.tv.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Ian. Great soccer segment there. Brett, anything you want to talk about before we get out of here, man? I mean, just been a fantastic show. Can't wait to see the rest of the baseball games being played out. And we're going to do it again next week heading into the semifinals. And then we'll have the ultimate state championship preview for both soccer and baseball. And we're going to break down the 3 soccer state championship games. There's going to be 6, 12. Holy smokes. I don't know. We're going to have to split up into 2 shows. We're going to have a soccer special and a baseball special. We'll have something in store for you. I promise. We're going to give you the ultimate coverage. Brett, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be interesting to see how favorites do, especially those who are being pushed to 3 games in the baseball series. And then some of the rivalry games that we're seeing in the quarterfinal matchups where we had very close regular season contests against one another. Do we see some kind of upset? Do we see a Cinderella emerge out of the quarterfinals that we weren't expecting? We've got some great series on tap. Those 4 or 5 matchups, 3-6 matchups, those are going to be the ones I think to keep your eye on. Obviously, everybody's going to be keeping their eye on Macon and FPD. You've got soccer as well. Some of the defending state champs, that are still alive. You've got CFCA girls. You've got St. Anne Pacelli, you've got a lot of a soccer talent there. Holy Spirit Prep on the boys side, and Frederica girls in the AAA. Can all of those teams continue to make runs in this year and just kind of establish their programs as true programs, true dynasties, or will an upstart come in and kind of overturn things and spoil maybe a victory parade there? So we'll see what happens. It's an exciting time of the year. Obviously, we've been talking and building towards the end of the year, and we're about finished up, Thrift, but we got 2 outstanding championships. We're in the thick of the bracket for both of them, and I just can't wait to see how things play out.
Yeah, I can't either, man. And remember, you can watch all the state championship soccer and baseball games on GIAA.tv, and you can rewatch all of the previous ones from past years on GIAA at the Vault. So make sure you go and do that. So congratulations to all the past winners. I did want to make mention, because we did have a few things. Lacrosse state championships did happen. And we do have some champions. Strong Rock Christian was your girls 2026 GIAA lacrosse state champions. They won by an unbelievable game, 12-11 in the final 10 seconds in overtime to take down George Walton. Congratulations to Strong Rock Christian girls on winning that state championship. And for the boys, we had an 18-2 win by George Walton over Strong Rock. So a dominant performance by George Walton. The boys, not as close. Girls went down to the wire. So congratulations, George Walton boys, on winning the boys lacrosse state championships in the GIAA 2026, presented by the Beck Center. And then congratulations also for the girls, Strong Rock taking down George Walton in the state championship. Brett, any thoughts on that before we get out of here?
Lacrosse is an interesting sport, very fun to watch. I watch a lot of it while I'm getting my hair cut, believe it or not. It's normally tuned in when I go, and it's always interesting to see, man. That's a very physical sport. A lot of time commitment that you got to have, and so congratulations to those athletes bringing home a championship to their school.
Well, thank y'all so much for watching. It's a fantastic show. We hope you have a good rest of your Thursday night. And next time we talk to you, we're talking semifinals for soccer and baseball. From Brett Taylor, I'm Third Barringer saying we'll see you next time on Inside the GIAA, presented by this Beck Center on GIAA.tv.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.tv, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or